This interview is brought to you by Burn Up Coaching and the 21-Day Challenge. If you are an entrepreneur or a high achiever and you feel stuck, you feel overwhelmed, you feel like you aren't achieving your real potential, then the 21-Day Challenge will help you reignite that passion and self-belief in yourself so you can succeed like never before. You'll get crystal clear on your purpose, your long-term goals. You'll learn how to break those down into bite-sized steps, and then you'll get daily action steps to be able to achieve those. Dial in your morning and your nighttime routines, do weekly deep dive calls where you uncover the limiting beliefs and things that have been keeping you stuck so that you can succeed like never before. If you're interested in the 21-Day Challenge, send me a message, chris@beyourgps.com, or shoot me a message on Facebook. Would love to talk to you. That is the 21-Day Challenge. Next up is the iTunes Review of the Week. And the iTunes Review of the Week this week is by Melissa C. She says, enthusiasm and energy. This guy has enough energy to spare, and it helps me feel spunky and enthusiastic again. Yay! Thank you so much, Melissa. If you want to give us a review, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes, and you can give us a review there, or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on the iTunes Store. You'll find it like that, or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on Facebook and give us a review there. Thank you in advance for doing that. We super appreciate you. Next up is the introduction for this woman. And by the way, you definitely want to stay tuned all the way through this interview. If you have kids, if you are in a community, if you know of bullying, if you don't know of bullying, whatever the case might be, you really want to stay tuned in this to find out how you can be someone who moves things forward in a positive way, how you can stand up for the underdog, how you can identify bullying, how you can really bring an end to this, because so many kids, so many people in general suffer from bullying, suffer from abuse and all these things. So really stick through to the end, because Kalyani is going to bring the heat. She's going to share an incredible mindset, how you can really take charge of your life. So stick around. She's going to bring the information, okay? Kalyani is an anti-bullying advocate, having experienced bullying throughout her life from her school days right into her professional life. Working in post-apartheid South Africa, she has a wealth of information on this topic. It is her mission to enable teenagers to discover how powerful they truly are in being true to themselves, because she firmly believes that it's easier to mold a child than it is to mend an adult. And she's here with us today. Are you ready to rock this, Kalyani?
Totally.
All right.
Let's get this started.
Let's do this. You're now live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Thanks so much for being here, for taking time out of your schedule to share with our audience how we can really take charge in our own life about bullying and, just like have a great life. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. So let's dive right into the question of the day, which is a purpose worth dying for. So Kalyani, how does this topic of being willing to die for your purpose, something that means so much to you, how has this shown up in your life? How has it made a difference for you?
It's a very interesting question. I'm going to dive into a little bit of my background. I have two, for lack of a better word, unsuccessful business ventures behind me. And there was a reason why I had those. It was a lesson in it for me, and the lesson was self-love. And it showed up every single time in my life, because at the end of the day, I could only give from a place where I was fulfilled myself, and I wasn't fulfilled myself. So no matter what I gave, it was just coming from an empty cup. Now, talking about how the specific purpose worth dying for has shown up in my life, it is the very simple thing that now, no matter what I do, every setback I have, I don't see it as a setback. It's like, what is the lesson for me here? What lesson am I learning? And why is this happening? Because every experience, good or bad, is actually a lesson. And unfortunately, what happens is we tend to focus so much on the failure that we miss out on the lesson. Now, when I look at my unsuccessful businesses, I realize I was so busy trying to prove my worth and my value to people around me. Again, a little more background. I am a CPA who quit her career 8 years ago to raise my kids. So being a stay-at-home mom is really hard. You find it very hard to find your purpose in that sort of situation. A reason to wake up every single day, a reason to give it your best. It's really hard. So that's why I delved into online business, hoping to find my worth and my value there. While the lesson for me was, you are worthy and valuable just as you are. You don't need to do anything to prove your worth and value. So now what's happened is that every single step I take, no matter what setback I feel, there's a lesson in it for me. So even when I took on this whole anti-bullying advocate role, there were times when, I would take a step forward and I'd fall back 3 steps. And I learned my lesson in that too, is that I was trying to do this on my own without trying to rely on the universe, a higher power, God, if you prefer that word, to guide me. And I found that ever since I started doing that, where I just literally, I say, okay, this is what I want to do. I say to the universe, show me how. And literally within a space of, I'd say, a month and a half, I've just had opportunity after opportunity come my way, where I had this book idea back in April, May, and now I'm already actually writing the book in a space of a month and a half. Yes. Exactly. And then this interview, exactly, just that. It just happened because I took a step back and I said, okay, show me what you want me to do, and I will be there.
Yes.
And that's why I am here.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Like taking that leap. And I'm curious, how did you see that tapping into your purpose, like your life purpose? How did you see that coming together with businesses and starting businesses, and especially moving into this anti-bullying mindset? Like, and we might have to go into your background, into your journey to do that. So just for people, just before we go there, I want to tell people a little bit more about who you are and what you stand for with this bullying stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
So basically what happened with my business is I didn't realize I was being bullied. And I started my business as a result of bullying. Okay. Because I was being bullied by people you expect to support you, and I'm talking about family. I was being criticized, I was being put down, being told I was worthless simply because I was just a mom. Now, at this point, I do want to state I come from a culture where your value and your worth is identified with what you do, not who you are. So I have this battle against my own culture, and I have this battle against family. And I played into that bullying by starting these businesses just to show them, guess what? I'm a nobody. I'm not a nobody. Sorry. Guess what? I'm not a nobody. I am something. I am someone. And with that intent, the reason, like I say, it's the most beautiful journey. I can look back at it. I was very depressed last year, and I can look at it now and say it was such a beautiful journey because the lesson was so profound that there were a number of reasons I failed. Number one, I played right into my bully's words. Number two, the fact that when you start something with the intent to prove something to someone, you're not going to succeed. I totally disagree with this motivational quote that says the best form of revenge is self-improvement. No, it's not. Because if you're going to start improving yourself with the intent of revenge, you're not going to succeed. Right. So that was the other lesson. And the third and most profound lesson for me is my core value as an individual is self-respect. And the minute your goals start clashing with your core values, you will not succeed. My goal was to prove my worth and value to people, to my family. But I did not succeed because my core value is self-respect. So no self-respecting individual will succeed in trying to prove their worth and value because you're going against your core value. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's incredible that you noticed that. You noticed that. Well, if especially if I'm going to grow myself, I'm going to do it so I can get revenge. That's crazy, like that you have that awareness and you saw that, and that some people do that. Some people say, I'm going to go live this purpose. I'm going to accrue massive amounts of wealth. I'm going to build businesses so I can prove that I'm enough, so I can get back at the people who told me, I couldn't do it, or I wasn't enough, or I wasn't worthy, or whatever it might be. And you got to see that in your life, and you got to learn those lessons. That's incredible. It is. It's like saying, I'm going to show them. And the reason, and that's the other thing that I actually also learned, is negative and reverse psychology worked very well on me. After my second pregnancy, the reason I lost 60 pounds was because somebody said to me, you can't do it.
Wow.
So my entire life until now had always been about, somebody just has to say something the wrong way and I'm there. I am the underdog. I'm going to prove them wrong. And life shouldn't be about proving somebody wrong.
Wow.
Life should be about living your purpose, your value, your worth, whatever ignites that fire in your heart, and chasing that with everything you've got inside of you. And then this is what led me eventually to becoming an anti-bullying advocate, because I played into what my bullies said. And my bullies also know very well that this is how I react. So once I stopped playing into and I stopped reacting to it, things started falling into place for me.
Wow, that's incredible. And I love how you saw that you were motivated by those things in the past, but then you changed it around. And I'm curious, just off the top, what do you think is some ways that people can start taking steps towards being motivated by, what inspires them, and asking the universe for help and different things like that, versus the regret or pain or shame and proving people wrong? How can we start to change that?
It was, now again, talking from my own personal experience, I had to hit rock bottom.
Mm.
I had to hit rock bottom. There's a very famous saying that says, you get the breakdown before you get the breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
So, for someone like me to turn it around, so what happened is I had the two failed businesses, and then I think I applied for 5 or 6 work from home job opportunities, and I was declined for every single one of them.
Wow.
And I was like, what the fish? Why? Why? What's wrong with me? And all this time I could just, I always, whatever I wanted, I'd seen the law of attraction playing in my life. It's like whatever I wanted, it happened.
Mm.
And now it wasn't happening. And then when you're stuck, you kind of sit in the slump and you think, what now? Mm-hmm. And I think the starting point is for every individual to recognize what their core values are. Mm. What is it that you stand for when everything else has been taken away from you? What are even just 3 things that are totally non-negotiable for you? Hmm. And when you start at that point of what is non-negotiable for you, then how can you build a purpose-driven life from those values?
Hmm. Wow. So asking ourselves that question of what is the most important thing for me? What do I stand for when everything is gone? What are those non-negotiables for me?
Exactly. And it's something I teach my children all the time. Self-respect, self-respect, self-respect. Because people will treat you on the basis of how you treat yourself. Yeah. And if you're going to be a doormat on which everyone wipes their feet, everyone else is going to do it. Wow. So you need to stand up and say, this is not acceptable to me. I draw the line. And the most important thing is don't try to get revenge against those who try to put you down, because it just puts you at their level. It puts you at their level. And why do you want to stoop down to their level? You don't. No. You rise above it because you respect yourself. The problem is we're also driven by our ego and we want to have the last word. Mm-hmm. And a very famous quote says that in a war of ego, the loser wins.
Wow.
Because you step away with your self-respect. Why do you want to stoop down to that level and get into that argument? And it's very, very hard to explain this to teenagers, Unfortunately, my daughter has dealt with quite a few bullies and mean kids. And now I find that whatever I've taught her, she uses it on me. So even if I try to get her to do something, she just turns around and gives me that response. I'm like, you're supposed to use that on your bullies, not on me.
You taught her well.
I did. She knows exactly that.
Yeah.
So yes, it is, to live that life where you're not trying to get revenge, you're not trying to get even, you have to say to yourself, I choose to rise above this. Because what people forget is that they have the power of choices and decisions in their lives. Right. And they miss out on all that power that they have because they fall victim to their circumstances and they feel that they have no power. And I firmly believe that you are a product of your decisions, not of your circumstances. Because even when I hit that rock bottom where I had the 2 failed businesses, I could not find a job, I still had the power of choice and decision. Yeah. And then when I started coming out of that rut, it just started with something simple. I went back to the basics where fitness training is a part of my life. I started eating healthier again. I started working out again. I had to believe in myself again, and I had to start with something tangible. And the tangible place for me to start was, well, I used to always be so fit and I used to eat so well. Why am I punishing myself like this? And I went on this journey where I did 100 days of no cheat meals. Wow. I trained really hard. I shredded out and it felt great. So once it was just going, you have to start, your belief in yourself starts with something tangible. And then you set yourself small goals. Like, okay, I'll do it for 5 days, then do another 5 days. You keep adding on. You don't say I'm going to do 100 days. You're going to kill yourself in the process.
Right. So it's like those bite-sized commitments that we can make early on is super
Exactly.
super powerful, and that's like to build the self-esteem. That's to build the momentum. When we're at that rock bottom place, when we're fed up, when we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, then we can make a commitment. We can share with people, here's what I'm committed to. Accountability partners or support group, whatever that might be. So
Exactly.
that's really powerful, and I want to dive into this bullying mindset. So you got bullied, in a lot of your life. And I really want to define what is a bully and how do we know if we're being bullied? How do we know if we're seeing bullying? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So there's mean behavior, which is some kid just saying something nasty once in a while to someone else. But bullying is consistent mean behavior. It is consistent mean behavior towards another individual. And it's not where it's fighting back and forth, it is name calling. It can be physical bullying. It can be pretty much anything as long as that mean behavior is consistent towards another human being. It can be character assassination. It can be anything. But the key word is consistent. It's consistent. It's not that once in a while thing.
Yeah, that's powerful. So it's the consistent mean behavior, and being able to define that, it's like gives us power. If we notice something happen, more than once, multiple times a week, or seemingly on a weekly basis, like we get to identify, hey, this is not okay. It's not appropriate, and we get to address it. So how do we start addressing that kind of behavior?
I think communication. That's the first thing. You will find, like, as parents, what happens is we're busy. We're busy. We don't take the time to listen to our children, or even I find I do this myself. I'm guilty of it. Is I will be doing something in the kitchen and my child's talking to me. It stops there. You got to sit them down, look them in the eye, face to face, because sometimes kids these days are so afraid to talk because they feel maybe their parents don't have time, or they won't understand, or they'll just think, oh, it's just kids being kids. Don't take it so seriously, or talk to your teacher. The solutions are so standard that kids feel frustrated. They feel extremely frustrated because they're not being heard. And the other part of it is that children do not have the emotional intelligence to communicate the level of their frustration, the level of their hurt. They don't have the vocabulary necessary to say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I need somebody to help me with this. More often than not, when I talk to my kids about what's happening in their school, teachers say to them, solve your own problems. Solve your own problems. And sometimes they're not solvable. Right. Isn't it easier for the teacher to say in that situation, okay, what would take both kids, whoever's fighting, sit them both down and say to each one, what would your ideal situation be? And then ask the same questions, what do you think the ideal situation would be for the other person? And what would be the ideal situation for the other person? So you're putting them in each other's shoes, but you're giving them a chance to have their feelings validated. More often than not, that's what they want. They want to have their feelings validated. Right. And if you turn around and say, oh, that's not true. Oh, that's just kids being kids. You're just saying, I understand how that must hurt your feelings. It just takes two words. I understand. It doesn't take much. Validation of their feelings. And then just allowing them to be heard. More often than not, once they're heard, the situation dissipates in itself if it's not a case of severe bullying.
So it's just those words, I understand. That's just seeing their perspective and letting them know that they're being heard, they're being validated. And
that it's okay for them to feel that way. Because I think what happens is that they're made to feel shame and ridicule for the way they feel. It's like, oh, it's just kids being kids. It's just written off. It's like their feelings don't matter. And if you just show them that their feelings matter, they're more likely to open up instead of just shutting down.
Yeah. So would you say that's the biggest challenge why people feel so isolated? Especially, I know young boys have a challenge with not having fathers and not feeling appropriate in their masculinity and having that balance of masculine and feminine. Would you say that it's like people feeling, especially these kids feeling like their feelings don't matter, is what is at the source of all this trauma and like unhappiness and deep rooted depression or overwhelm, stuff like that? Would you say that's what it is?
it is a case of, whatever they're going through is quote unquote not bad enough.
Mm.
You see, it's written off. And with
Wow.
boys, I think it's especially harder because, that stigma with crying, boys don't cry, that whole implication, boys are not meant to cry. Why not? They're human beings. They have feelings. They
That's
should
right.
cry.
That's
I
right.
mean, one of the things my son, I've seen, he's 8 years old, and I've seen him do this, is if he gets hurt, I see him fighting back the tears. And I say to him, why are you doing that?
Mm.
It's okay to cry. Let me hold you.
Mm.
I allow him to feel what he needs to feel. And it is allowing them the space to feel what they need to feel to start the healing process, to be able to take the next step forward. But if you're just going to deny what they're feeling and shut them down and tell them to solve their own problems when they're 13, 14 years old? How? If we don't give them the tools, how is this supposed to happen? Recognize how they feel. If you don't recognize how they feel, if you don't give it a name, if you don't validate it, they will shut down.
Yeah. Would you say that there's parents who draw out the feelings too much in a way that like enables the kids to feel like a victim or to not really stand up for themselves? Is there an extreme of that in our population as well, or would you say that pretty much doesn't?
You see what there's always an element of everything. There's an element of too much coddling,
Mm-hmm.
where yes, they say, "Oh, that's so horrible. Let's fix this for you." You see, what I believe in and what has worked for me with my children is I sit them down and say, okay, let's think of possible solutions. Because as opposed to me, I validate them first, and that opens them up to the conversation. Yeah. And when you get them involved in the decision-making process, they feel that what they suggest holds value and it's important. And the other thing is they'll be more committed to trying that solution because they've been part of creating that solution. If you say to them, okay, well, fine, I'll talk to the teacher and we'll see what the teacher says. Get them involved in the process. One of the things you can do is, okay, let's have a meeting with the teacher and get the child to sit down and tell the teacher how they feel. If need arises, make notes. Help them make notes so that they can have the vocabulary, have the words that they need to explain the severity of the situation, and be present there as the support. Because at some point in time, we need to teach our children how to communicate. If we're going to be communicating for them, they will not learn. We can be present as a support system.
Right. To help guide the conversation, but don't do the conversation for them.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Wow. And I think that's like coaching, like coaching like our kids or the people around us into like where they want to go. Hey, like, remember, Johnny, you wanted to come talk to your teacher about something. What did you want to talk about? Exactly. And so that gives them like the freedom to say, oh, I guess I'll try. And then if it doesn't come out as planned or, didn't quite hit the objective, you could say, well, hey, didn't you want to talk about that? Didn't this come up for you or something like that? Wasn't there something else? And so you can coach them along the process to say what they said to you in private, in confidentiality, if it's supposed to be something that they need to communicate with other people or another student or another teacher.
Exactly. Absolutely. Now, the other issue I've noticed with parents and teachers is that they tend to use reverse psychology as a source of motivation. And anything negative cannot produce something positive. That's what I firmly believe. So what's happening right now in my kids' school is there's one particular teacher that says, oh, you're performing badly. Do you want me to call your mom? And the kids get scared. And I've told my children that the next time this teacher says that, tell them, yes, please phone my mom. No. Because I know exactly what I want to say to this teacher is that you are not encouraging them positively. You cannot use fear of punishment to motivate them. You cannot use negative psychology to produce a positive result. It doesn't work. Not anymore. Maybe it did 20 years ago. It doesn't now anymore. Because what you're doing is you're instilling fear to create discipline. It doesn't work. It really doesn't work. And parents also do that too. It's like, well, if you fail, then this will happen. Or are you dumb? Are you stupid? Whatever we say to our children becomes their inner voices. What do you want your child to be saying to themselves? Yeah. And, do mirror talk. Tell them, you know what? I am good at what I do. I am proud of myself. Mirror talk is so important.
Yes.
You know, remind them every single day. I tell my kids when I say goodnight to them, a kiss and a hug, and I say, I love you. I'm so proud of you. You're a wonderful human being.
Hmm.
You did great by doing X, Y, Z today. Positive
Yeah.
encouragement all the time.
Yeah, that's powerful, and I really want to emphasize the point that you made about like a negative can't produce a positive. I think in the temporary, in the short run, it might produce a positive, like someone getting their homework done. But in a long term, holistic sense, a negative cannot produce a net negative or net positive, right? It's like it might be immediate positive a little bit. Oh, they get the work done, but long term, those negative, fear based, hey, what, like, don't get in trouble, you don't want to get in trouble, right? Do your homework. That fear-based conditioning will have a dramatic effect on a kid's psychology, like long term, and they'll have a fear of being punished and being disciplined for their entire life that will stick with them, that will probably have them not want to raise their hand, that will have them not want to speak up in meetings, that will have them not want to stand up for what is right because they're afraid of being disciplined or something like that.
Exactly. And living in fear is no way to live life.
Mm. Mm. Amen. 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 So one thing that comes up, and I really want, like, because today we have a lot of personal development, we have a lot of mindset teachings and empowerment, and Tony Robbins talks about we're motivated by two forces, either pain or pleasure, and he says that a lot, like most people will do a lot more to avoid pain than they will to achieve pleasure and experience pleasure. So how can we really is it just tapping into that mindset and saying, okay, negativity is an option, and if we want a holistic, empowered human being, then from the very beginning, we want to be using positive motivation to have them aspire to positive things. Would you say that it's just like that only happens, people being motivated by the negative, because of our current society and our current paradigm? And if we change that from the beginning, then that wouldn't be so much so?
Like I say, I have used a lot of negative psychology to produce positive results, but it
Right.
only works to a certain point.
Right.
And that's why I believe that if you start out from a positive place, right, and especially with children,
Mm.
because their minds they're like silly putties. You can
Yeah.
mold them in any way that you want.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to teach them to seek out the positive in every single thing. Now, I want
Mm.
to give an example here. Um, this was in August, we were driving to Kelowna from here, and it's an 8 hour drive. And
Mm.
we got stuck on the highway because of an accident, and it was a 3.5 to 4 hour traffic jam where we just weren't moving. We were parked. And I had the option of giving my kids devices, and instead I didn't. I got out of the car and we started socializing with the other travelers.
Mm.
And I kept saying to them, "What lesson are you learning from this? Because
Mm.
there's a lesson in it for you." So if we can take every negative situation rather than focusing on the pain, if we teach children, what lesson are you learning from this?
Mm.
So use it as a source of motivation. Yes, you can use the negative as a source of motivation, but not that you want to get out of this negative. It's like, what are you learning from this situation?
Mm.
And if you focus on that, then you could already turn that negative situation into something positive and create pleasure from it.
Mm. Yeah, 100%. So, what would you say is the vehicle to transform the state of bullying that exists in our current society? Like, what's the vehicle? What's the method to really have something like that go away, or abolish it, or to create a new paradigm, a new standard?
Okay, so the reason I took on this anti-bullying advocate status, or whatever you want to call it, this job, is because I attended an anti-bullying workshop at my kid's school, and I was so let down. I was
Mm.
so incredibly let down because what I've seen over and over, the norm is that we talk about bullying behavior, we talk about how to stop the bully, we talk about how bullying affects victims, but nobody's talking about the bully
Mm.
because nobody is born a bully. Why doesn't anyone turn around and look at the bully and say, you weren't born this way? And I bet you if you have to look deep down inside of you, every single time you bully someone, does it make you feel good?
Mm.
No, it doesn't. And what creates a bully is either their environment, they might be being bullied at home, they
Mhm.
might be battling with their own feelings. I learned of a bully who was a bully because when she was a teenager, she didn't she didn't understand that she was gay, And she just did not like anybody who felt comfortable in their own skin.
No.
So the key is trying to, instead of punishing the bully, what if we taught the bully to love themselves, despite whatever they may be facing that has created that bully within them? There's a story I saw on social media, and I thought, what if we had to do that in schools? And what it is in small villages in Africa, I don't know which country in Africa, they would take somebody who committed a crime, and they would make him stand in the middle of the village, and all the villagers would surround him, and they would say something nice about him or a good deed that he or she did. And eventually, by the time everyone was done, this person was crying. Yeah. What if we took a bully and put them in the spot like that and allowed everyone to say something nice about this bully to help him or her realize that, you know what, they're not a bad person. Yeah. They're just making bad choices. And with the right support, we can help them. So can we stop punishing the bully and instead help him heal? Because it could be bullying at home, it could be anything. But what if we created such a beautiful environment for this bully to heal in school that they would actually look forward to coming to school? Because that would be their safe haven. That would be their home away from home, where they felt comfortable, where they had the opportunity to heal. Because like I always say, it's a choice. Yeah. You can face the most difficult circumstances in life, and you can allow it to break you down and build you up. What if we show these bullies they have a choice and they don't have to bully in order to feel powerful or in order to feel that they have control over a situation?
So what I hear is, like, first off, if there is bullying that goes on, then there's a specific protocol or set of actions that says, hey, we're going to do something, a rally or something like that celebrates these people who've been bullies, who've been, whatever, not nice, and they've been mean, and we send them love and we let them know how appreciated they are, whatever that might be, right? Like something that every school has when they encounter this difficulty that says, we organize people, manpower, kids, whatever, to heal this situation, and here's how we're going to do it. So that's like one aspect, more of a I don't want to say reactive, but responsive. That's a responsive approach. And also like a proactive approach could be to have a culture of just off the bat anyways, celebrating every single person, like as a culture, as a habit, and having the kids say, I love you to each other, and I appreciate you. And here's three things I like about you.
Sorry to interrupt you. In my kids' school, they have thank you Fridays where, they thank a friend or somebody. But the problem with that is there'll be 5 thank yous towards one kid, and one kid won't get any thank you. So they get left out, right? So how can we balance that out so that every kid gets a thank you or more than one thank you? Right? That's the issue. I understand it's supposed to be a choice. Maybe the teacher then could see and identify which students didn't get a thank you, and the teacher themselves can write a thank you to that student. Thank you for your smile. Thank you for raising your hand to answer the question today. Yeah. Or, thank you for helping me clean up. It doesn't have to be something huge and gigantic. It's small acts of kindness that builds positive behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So we have Virginia in the audience who said, so good, Kalyani. Let's connect via Facebook. And she says, bullying is a conditioned response as a result of trauma and or insecurities. And hurt people hurt others and do not love the skin that they're in. Virginia also says, yeah, that's powerful. So I think
I agree. That's the phrase I was looking for. Hurt people hurt people. That's right. Because you can only give what you have. And if you only have hurt, I know it sounds very airy-fairy to say this, but I have learned that whatever the problem, love is the answer.
Wow.
My answer was loving myself. It's like I have to love myself so fiercely that I don't need to prove my worth or value to anyone. Wow. I want to talk a little bit about the research that I did on the book that I'm writing right now. Mm-hmm. And it was the book I researched, one of the many books that I researched, it was a lot of contributors to a book of their bullying story. And this one particular boy talks about being bullied relentlessly by another boy. And then he grows up, the victim grows up, and he becomes a tutor of some sort, a writing tutor. And on the last day, an assignment is supposed to be submitted. A student comes to him asking for his help. And the assignment was write about somebody who inspired you. And it so happened that the girl wrote about this teacher's bully and how he had changed his life because of what he had struggled with. Wow. And it came a full circle because the victim finally understand why the bully bullied, but eventually the bully went on to become an inspirational human being. My point is, why don't we use whatever the bullies are struggling with right now to help them become the inspirational people that encourage other people? Say, hey, you know what? I was a bully, but it made me feel this, this, and this. I was a bully because of this, this, and this, and it did not serve me. But now that I have transformed myself, I am just a much happier person.
Wow. So it's like help them transform their story about what is so in their reality, because they probably have tons of evidence about why they have to bully, why their life is too hard, why their family doesn't love them, all these things.
Exactly.
And if we help them see that and then say, hey, that's a story, and you get to transform that and say what your new story is, and then go out and live that.
Exactly. And I am a living example of this. Chris, what I'm about to share is extremely personal, but I feel it's necessary to the story. So I love my mom very much, make no mistake about it. But she, growing up, was a disciplinarian, and she still is. And, like hugs and love were few and far between. It was always do this, do that, or else. And I grew up thinking that my mom literally hated me. I grew up thinking that. But today, I can proudly say that my children say to me, Mommy, you are an awesome parent. No. They've seen my mom, and they say to me, you're so different from your mom. Why? And I say to them, it's a choice I made. Wow. Because if something makes you feel icky, why do you want to repeat that behavior? Don't. Just for the sense of control and power? No. We have the choice to be better. And that's why even my mom says to me, you're an amazing mom. I'm so proud of you. Because it was a choice I made. It's a decision I took that I will treat my children differently.
Man, that's powerful. And it's as simple as making that commitment, saying, hey, I experienced the pain, I experienced the contrast, I experienced the opposite of what I want. I don't want that. I'm not going to continue to perpetuate that. I'm not going to continue to create that in my life or the people around me's lives. So here's who I'm going to be instead. And it's like you said, you had to hit that rock bottom moment probably to say, I'm not going to wind up like my mom. I'm going to be a different person than her. And then you started living out that new future.
It was the fact that I felt a lack of love from her. And I just said, my children will never feel a lack of love from me. It was as simple as that. They will never feel a lack of love from me. And it has perpetuated. It has gone to my children. My daughter was being bullied. And I remember when her bully was being bullied, nobody stood up for the bully, but my daughter did. Wow. So it shows. She's learned to stand up for herself for all the right reasons. And she knows how to do it. She knows how to. And I will say to her, I'm there if you need my help. And she said, no, Mommy, I'll sort this out myself. Wow. And now she started off this grade very badly. And now the very kids that were bullying her, they formed this huge group of friends, and they're always laughing and joking. And it's just wonderful that she could bring about this change in them simply because she said, I do not accept this behavior from you.
Wow. Well, what did she, so like just saying that, is that enough to change it? Or like, what did she do? Do you know?
What did she do? Well, so basically what had happened is my daughter is in choir. Okay. And she was being picked on by 2 or 3 girls. And, they'd tug at her hair, they'd put garbage in her hair, and, they'd say nasty things to her. And she just, she spoke to the teacher about it. And then when it was happening, she just turned around and said, hey, stop that right now. Stop that. Right. And the good thing is that she has 2 or 3 friends who also stood up for her right then and there. And I remember I ran into one of them and I got emotional and I said, listen, thank you for standing up for her. It means so much to me. And then I just said to my daughter, I'll just email the teacher. And I was very to the point, and I listed out the incidents that happened. And I just said, can you please tell me how this will be resolved and when can I follow up? So they knew I was onto it. It's not like, oh, this has happened. What next? It's like, number 1, what step by step, tell me, what are you going to do to resolve this? Number 2, when can I follow up to see if this has been resolved or not? And obviously the teachers got involved because I mean business and I look mean. And they got involved, and it took a couple of weeks, and now, they have their choir performance on Friday, and they're just like a bunch of buddies that have so much fun. And it's made me so happy because I don't want the bullies to feel like there's something wrong with them. That's the key, is that if they're included, if they're part of it, it's so much happier an environment when people are having fun, as opposed to picking on someone. And I always say that my son always says to me, Mommy, why don't you like pranks? And I tell him, because jokes are meant to be laughed at, not people. People are not meant to be laughed at. Jokes are meant to be laughed at. And he gets it. And that's exactly what, and because I say this, they tend to repeat me. And my daughter said that to her bullies, is like, jokes are meant to be laughed at, not people. How would you feel if I did this to you? How would it make you feel? And when you ask the other person, how would it make you feel? It puts them in that position. I am blessed that she's very articulate and she knows how to get her message across.
Yeah.
And that is why part of my book, what I'm doing is I'm writing as the exercises for the teenagers. They're going to be letters that they can literally copy word for word and put in the emotions. There'll be a list of emotions that they can put in and a list of actions that they can take. And they can write these letters to their teachers, to their bullies, to their parents, to get the results that they want. Because I want to teach them how to communicate effectively.
Oh, so amazing. And I love how you have this example of your daughter, like just breaking through this recently. That's incredible. And also what I heard is when like in sales and in entrepreneurship and stuff like that, the person who has the most conviction and the most like belief and the most determination is the one who wins, who can persuade, everyone around them. So simply by your daughter saying, hey, you will not treat me like that, and like standing for that, and also having the support of her friends, like that makes a big difference too. And like just that conviction that I'm worth more than tolerating this BS, this nonsense that you've gotten away with or that you think that is okay. I'm not tolerating this, and it's not okay, right? And just like standing ground.
I think, Chris, the issue is that we teach children just ignore it. Why ignore it? Why ignore it? And the other thing that I want to teach children is when your bullies are calling you names and they're saying things, they want to get a reaction out of you. And the minute you react, you give your bullies the power. When you start giving a nonchalant response, the other person is shocked. And, when I started taking my power back with family, I remember, and this has happened twice, this specific person in my family is a big bully. And the first time, it was 4 years ago, I did not walk the walk and I did not talk the talk as he expected me to. And he's a senior member of the family. And he chose that moment to get angry with me and say to me, I do not care about you. I don't ever want to see your face again. And I just said to him, that's awesome to know. Thank you very much. And he's so used to people groveling because he's a bully.
Right.
I chose not to. And for the first time in all the years I've known him, he was dumbstruck. He did not have a word to say to me. And the other incident was only last year where, he went onto this whole verbal diarrhea of how I'm a bad person and I don't know anything. And I just said, fine. No worries. Sure. Because remember one thing, what other people say about you doesn't become your reality unless you pick up that hat and you wear it.
Right.
And saying fine is you're just diffusing the situation. You're not giving in, you're not reacting the way the other person wants, and that's how they lose their power. That's how you disempower them, is by not reacting the way they want you to. You just disempower them.
What's the difference between establishing your boundaries and saying, no, you won't treat me like that, and like the fine and not reacting, like how do we know which one to do and which is appropriate for bullies?
Setting the boundaries comes from how you treat yourself. Because people will treat you how you treat yourself. Right. And when somebody says something and you just let it pass and you let it pass and you let it pass, that's how it snowballs. You've got to draw the line at the first instant. Once you draw the line at the first instant, they know, okay, you know what? I cannot Charlie Tango with this person. Right. There's no Charlie Tango in here. Right. It is, it's my way, not my way or the highway. That's the wrong way. But you know what? I've drawn the line in the sand. It doesn't go beyond this point. It doesn't. And I've used this tactic with every single person that raises their voice to me. It's like, you know what? Let me know when you're done. Because I'm not indulging you. I'm not indulging you. And that's all they want. They want that indulgence. And if you don't feed into that, you have the power. The minute you get defensive is the minute you've accepted the words they've said about you.
What if there's a family who has a tendency of raising their voices at each other to like be heard, to be validated, whatever it might be, and if they say, you know what, I'm not indulging you, then the other person will just continue to steamroll them until
they'll stop, because remember one thing, it's like playing tennis. If there's nobody that's on the other side to hit the ball back at you, you stop after a while. You stop, because when you just say, you know what, I'm not indulging you, and it's happened, and the best example I give is my husband. He tends to raise his voice, and when he gets into his whole yelling spree, I just literally look at him and I say it 4 or 5 times, let me know when you're done, because I'm not listening to it. And it just takes 4 or 5 sentences and he runs out of steam, because he knows, he can see, it's like, I've tuned out, because you won't talk to me that way. And I won't say I've changed him, but I've changed the way I respond. And because I've changed the way I respond, it's changed the situation.
Totally. Wow.
And that's where you get your power. The minute you change your response, you get the power.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. So Kalyani, let's begin wrapping it up and hear like the final pieces of wisdom that you want us to receive and start implementing because of this interview. What would you say are those top things you want us to know?
Learn how to communicate effectively. You will only be heard when you truly voice your real feelings. And it's okay, there's thesaurus. Something I always say is, if you can't get it out in words, write it down. Because when you write it down, you'll be more coherent. You'll be able to put your emotions down properly without losing your temper.
Yeah.
And the minute you lose your temper, you lose the argument. Self-respect. It's my core value. I want to pass it on to everyone who's listening. If you don't respect yourself, you cannot expect anyone else to. Self-respect starts with you. You know what sort of behavior is acceptable to you and what isn't. And it's as simple as trusting your feelings. Your feelings are your instincts. They're your guide from the universe. If this makes me feel good, this makes me feel icky. And stick with it. Don't have different sets of rules for different people. It's like, I accept this, I don't accept this, and I do it blanket rule from everyone. I do not accept this. And the most important thing is validate yourself. If no one else validates you, validate yourself. That it is okay to feel a certain way. And there's nothing wrong with it. Nobody can say to you, you're not supposed to feel that way. You don't need anyone else except you to start believing in yourself, because others will follow suit.
Yeah.
You can't expect anyone from outside to fill your cup. You fill your cup from within.
Yeah. And
if you have children, please take the time to listen to them. And if you're a teenager listening to this, watch out for my book, because it's going to create a storm.
Yes. I love it, Kalyani. So how can people stay connected with you, and what do we want them to do next?
So keep an eye out on my Facebook page, Kalyani Speaks. It's just the way it is. I will be coming out with my book very, very soon. I'm already working on my first draft, and I'm halfway through my first draft. It'll be interesting to see how many edits I go through. But I would love for you to grab a copy for yourself as a parent to help your teenager, or for yourself as a teenager, because I do share my own personal stories, so you understand that I know where you're coming from. I do share the lessons I learned, because I want you to look for the lessons in what you're going through right now. Instead of just seeing yourself as a victim, see yourself as a student who is learning. Yeah. And then I want you to learn from my stories without going through the experiences I went through, so that you're better equipped to handle anything that comes your way. And then I also have exercises in my book, which will help you understand the lesson that I'm trying to teach.
Amazing. Well, I know everyone definitely wants to stay connected. So if you're listening or watching right now, follow Kalyani. She's absolutely changing the face of bullying so that we no longer have to deal with this issue. And I'm excited to see the types of people that you partner up with and team up with, whether it's Oprah or Ellen or whoever is doing big shows so that you can get this message out. I'm excited to see you do that, Kalyani, because you are a superstar. And, I really hear the wisdom in what you're sharing. I hear how important it is to you. And I'm really excited to see it come to life.
Thank you so much, Chris, and I wish you all of the best. It's been fantastic talking to you. I've always said I love your energy. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you. You have a great day, okay?
Thanks, you too.
All right, bye-bye.